We call the meeting of the Washington County Quorum Court County Services Committee to order. We'll ask Ms. Ecke to do the prayer and pledge.
Thank you for the honor, Justice Bowman. Would y'all join me in prayer, please? Heavenly Father, we're just so grateful to you that you are God of the universe and God of earth and God of us. There's a lot of devastation, a lot of bad weather, so we lift up all those people, their families, and their homes and their businesses to you. And we just ask that you would make a way where there seems to be no way and bring comfort, relief, and financial support. As far as this meeting, we just offer it up to you. And we thank you that we are free in America to meet like this, to have an open discussion and debate, and to talk about the freedoms that we have in this great country. We thank you for the blessing of our chairman and vice chairman. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, ma'am. Are there any changes to the agenda?
I see none.
Move we adopt.
Second.
All right,
Whoop.
say again. Turn your mic on in.
I would like to add number 7, a discussion.
Add number 7.
Yeah, and then 8 would be adjournment. Do I
I'm
need,
gonna go back and see what you're talking about.
well, I'm not talking about, usually we've got public comment on there, but then we used to have other business.
Okay.
So other business is what,
So you'd like to add other business
right,
after public comments?
yeah, yes.
Okay. Okay.
I
we have.
second it.
Thank you. Second. Let's vote on the amended motion.
Amendment.
Amended, yep, on the amendment. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, I guess we need to vote on the
Move
complete.
we adopt as amended.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, passed. So let's go ahead and, to begin with, Mr. Shankleford, is that properly pronounced?
Yes, sir.
We'd like to go ahead and hear the report on our hospital. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to be able to come this evening. I wanted to give you just a footprint. I'm sorry. Thank you. I wanted to just give you a footprint of Washington Regional, and then we're going to watch a real quick video, 6 or 7 minutes, and then everything on the screen you will have in your written report. But as of this last pay period at Washington Regional, we employ 3,115 employees. We have grown the workforce 65.8% since 2002 and are the third largest employer in Washington County. Our footprint currently, in addition to the medical center, we have 39 clinics that are located around Northwest Arkansas. We employ over 200 physicians and APRNs and PAs that work in those clinics. And within our hospital, we have 125 different departments. In 2018, we served 132,627 unique patients and provided over $21 million of charity care to residents primarily of Washington County. So I'm going to ask Brian if he can come and cue up a video talking about patient quality and patient safety at Washington Regional.
Can you turn the volume up on that?
Pushing the volume up.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'll turn mine off.
Washington Regional has been a great partner in healthcare. I've worked at pretty much all of the hospitals in the region, and I think Washington Regional, by far and away, has been the most concerned about taking good care of patients, about patient safety. Washington Regional has been the most open, allowing us to work on projects to achieve those ends, to improve patient care. And I've been very proud to be a part of the team at Washington Regional.
We are neighbors taking care of neighbors. I use that term all the time, and I truly believe that, because as a locally owned, locally managed, not-for-profit hospital, everything we do here is to take care of our community. We all own that. We all every day need to be looking at what we do and how we do it to make certain we're providing the best care in the safest means possible.
I think it's important to remember why we're here. Our mission at Washington Regional is to provide high-quality, comprehensive health care to improve the health of the folks in our community. A part of providing high-quality care is safe care, care that does no harm. It's not enough for us to just simply look when we have adverse events, when we have near misses, and to look at what caused those. We've got to be proactive in our approach. We have to identify potential risk. We have to work to keep bad things from happening and be diligent in that approach.
I love working for Washington Regional. I actually was a premature baby in the NICU at Washington Regional when I was born, so coming back around and full circle and now being able to also serve the community, I feel like it is the only hospital that I've worked at that I truly feel that the community and taking care of the community is the primary goal of the hospital.
I think culture of safety, to me, kind of harkens back to the principle of first, do no harm. We've done many things and processes have been in place, from medication reconciliation to surgical checklists to formal timeouts in the operating room, all designed to provide a safe environment to care for our patients.
Well, nothing really beats the feeling of being able to save a baby's life, and we all have to work very closely as a team with the doctors, charge nurses, other NICU nurses, respiratory therapy, x-ray, everybody, lab. Everybody works together and very quickly in order to save that baby's life.
I work in the emergency department. I get stopping everything. The whole hospital, everything is safety. Everything is take care to the family, It's almost a family here when coming the patient or the family patient is taken care very good.
In general, Washington Regional has a commitment to the community, even the community that we don't serve. We interact with different businesses to go on site to check blood pressures and do health fairs, as well as go into schools for education, and we have fun programs with kids, and we have fun programs with seniors to help spread the word of good prevention, good health for our neighbors.
When patients come to us, they by and large are trusting us to do our best work, and not only to do our best work, but to be compassionate and to take care of them in a way that we would take care of any family member. And I love that part about this hospital, is I feel like that we have a team of people that are committed to that. But the fact of the matter is that we do all that we can to make them as safe as possible, to deliver the best care that we possibly can, and to do it in a way that people feel like that they're cared for.
Safety is at the forefront of everything that I do. It literally affects every action that I take, from running our rapid response team and our code team and making sure that medications and protocols are followed appropriately, to washing my hands as I enter and exit a room. Patient safety is always my top priority.
People get up and come to work here every day, and one of the things that they come to work with is the belief that we need to make this hospital as safe as it can be. We need to utilize the best practices that we can on a daily basis for the benefit of our patients and their families and for everyone who works here. It's something that we owe to our patients It's something that we believe deeply in, and it's something that we carry out here each and every day.
Well, I've lived in Fayetteville for over 30 years now, and I think Washington Regional is a hospital that truly gives back to the community. It's not here just to serve the community, which we do, but it really does give back. We work with the hospital to help provide free prenatal care clinics, prenatal vitamins for patients, bring them into our private office for their care.
Safety culture is the sum of what an organization is and does in the pursuit of safety. And so if we think about it in that way, nearly everything we do in the quality department and the informatics department will lead into improving safety in the hospital. For example, the data we collect from the AHRQ Culture of Safety Survey and how we utilize that data to make improvements in safety for both patients and employees makes a big difference every day.
By promoting safety at Washington Regional, we commit ourselves to being the leading healthcare system for our community so that when patients arrive at Washington Regional, they feel secure and reassured in knowing that they're at the best hospital and that we're going to deliver that high quality care.
Every aspect of our care we view through a lens of quality and safety. Everything from the admission process to the discharge process, everything is viewed from an aspect of how can we ensure a safe place for our patients and our staff.
And it's been my experience that anytime we've identified a need and we've asked for help, every department's been willing to do what they need to do to improve that quality of care. And so I think that's something that's unique to our environment here that you don't find everywhere, is that there truly is a collaborative nature and a sense of family and support in terms of helping all of us meet our program goals and the goals that we need to improve safety and quality for our patients.
You know, we are all spokes of a wheel, but that wheel is not strong and that wheel will not hold up unless all the spokes are doing their work. So on a daily basis, whether you're a nurse or whether you're environmental services or whether you're working in a business office or a physician or a respiratory therapist, we all have to do our jobs, and we have to do them effectively, collectively, and collaboratively every day, or we won't be able to provide the care and safety that we want to. But if we are, there's no bounds to what we can do.
What's really important is our work. And our work is to really improve the health of the people that we serve. And at the end of the day, we really do make a difference in our patients' lives.
So, thank you. So this was a video that we produced internally. There was no script. We just had some of our leaders and staff sit down and talk about this theme of what does quality and safety mean to you. We do an orientation for all of our employees, new employees starting at Regional every other Monday. And this video is the first thing that they see. It's a real important part. So the booklet that you have, I've got here on the screen, everything here you have, and I'm just, if it'd be okay, I'll just kind of walk through this with you. You can take it and read it, but would certainly like to talk through some of the high points. And again, the theme this year that we want to talk to you about is here's what quality means to us. One of the things that we are most proud of, and it has been a process, but we were awarded the Governor's Award for Excellence in Quality. This award has been around for over 20 years in the state of Arkansas, and we were only the 4th hospital in the history to ever get the Governor's Quality Award at that top level. There are 3 or 4 levels of excellence that you can be recognized, and sometimes organizations will start at an entry level. Our first application was at the Governor's Award for Quality Excellence, which is the top level, and it was granted to us The other aspect that we have really been working on is how do we provide the best stroke care that we can. This is the gold award that we received in 2018. We're a hub on the Arkansas Saves Stroke Network. So if anyone around the state has a stroke and taken by their ambulance to their local ER, we are one of about 3 hubs in Arkansas, and one of our vascular neurologists provides help to that physician in the ER, provides treatment protocols, and then that patient is transferred to Washington Regional. And we're one of 3 primary stroke centers located within Arkansas currently.
How successful is that program? I mean, I'm sure it's very successful, but as far as your standards, you just initiated this program in 2018, and so how's it working?
I think
seriously.
Seriously, I think it's working great. This is an award that we received in 2018. The Arkansas Saves program has been around more than 5 and probably less than.
But even with
than
the
10
hubs
years.
and one from Washington Regional is
We are relatively new to being a hub on that wheel and receive the primary stroke designation, and I think it works great.
that's the point I wanted to make, because I know minutes matter when it comes to stroke, and I don't mean to take up a lot of time talking about a stroke, but when so many lives are affected by this, and the residual effects can either be life or death or paralysis or brain damage, I want everybody to know what you all are doing at Washington Regional. Thank you.
Thank you. I've got one other question. Where are the other 2 hubs in Arkansas?
There's one in Little Rock, and I believe there's one in Jonesboro.
Okay, all right. Okay, well, talking about the stroke issues, my wife's had some minor strokes, and Dr. Trimwell, we've been in to use, absolutely amazing doctor, and we just really think a lot of her.
Well, thank you.
All right, you can go ahead.
Thank you. These are various recognitions that Regional received over this last year, and you can read those from, Arkansas Medicaid giving us an IQI award. Antibiotic stewardship is really a big deal. We have one doctor who's a specialist in antibiotics and in infectious diseases, and everyone who receives an antibiotic at Washington Regional, he reviews lab work and reviews the choice of antibiotics every day, making decisions. Are they on the right antibiotic? Can the antibiotic be stopped? Once lab tests are known, sometimes they start with a super powerful broad antibiotic which you can build resistance to, and he identifies is there a more narrow antibiotic. And we were one of the first hospitals in Arkansas to have a physician who is focused on that, and we were the first hospital in Arkansas to receive this award this year. So we talked a little bit about neurosciences, and this has been an area of focus. Washington Regional is a level 2 trauma center. In Arkansas, the various highest level are level 1. There's only one place there's a level 1 in Arkansas, and that's in Little Rock. There are level 1s in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and in Springfield. We are the only level 2 that is in between those. So if, for example, you were in an accident on Interstate 40 between Fort Smith and Clarksville, it's likely that the helicopter would come to Washington Regional. And having neurosurgeons, these are 4 neurosurgeons that have joined our practice, and having neurosurgeons that do head trauma is a requirement of being level 2. I believe Ann asked a question last year. A friend of yours that was in an accident and ended up being transferred to Springfield because we did not have neurosurgery coverage. Pleased to tell you this year we have 24/7, 365 neurosurgery coverage. So that gap that existed at this time last year is not there any longer. We also have Dr. Agdahl and Dr. Moss, who are neurointerventional radiologists. As mentioned early, with stroke, time is of the essence, and a lot of times the clock can't be wound back. So they can tell you, and there's one story in here of a patient who was having problems from a stroke, was unable to move part of their body, was unable to speak, and they within less than 30 minutes of when they arrived in the emergency room had a CAT scan. It was determined that they had a blockage, and one of our intravascular neuroradiologists went in through a vein in their leg and got that blockage out. And they were able to leave the hospital less than a week later without any impact. If they had to have been transferred to one of these level 1 centers or outside the market, and that had taken an hour or 2 hours, then many times that damage is, once it's done, it can't be undone. So that has really been a big important part of our focus this year. On page 13 is a really neat story you can read, but this is the one that I was telling you about of Mr. Mead, and he tells you in his own words the issues that he was having and what his life has been like since then. Correct. Isn't that amazing? So some other areas, as you all are aware, our Arkansas Children's Hospital is in Northwest Arkansas, fully functioning. I think one of the success stories is we have worked cooperatively with them. We are transferring pediatric inpatients there. We still have a NICU, and Children's has not had to bring neonatologists and have not had to duplicate the efforts that we're doing in NICU. But the unit down on the first floor that was our pediatric inpatient, because Children's is taking care of those kids, we have repurposed that unit. So we went in, reconstructed, and we have a neurosurgical ICU there. So we have 20 beds of ICU beds that are reserved for neurosurgical patients, and that allowed us to take our ICU from a capacity of 40 to an ICU capacity of 60 with that change. And I think that's a great story of being able to take space and do something we do well while partnering with Children's to allow them to do something that they do well. So that unit opened this year. We have expanded our Walker Heart Institute. That's the other area that we have been recognized. It's really neat to see people who grew up in Northwest Arkansas go off and do training. Dr. Cole grew up in Rogers. He went out to Denver to get his cardiovascular surgery training and came back. On the page before, Dr. Shepard, who's one of our neurosurgeons, grew up in St. Paul. And he went up to Mayo Clinic and was trained and came back home to Northwest Arkansas. So it's really neat to be able to see hometown folks go to some of the best training programs in the world, not just in the United States, but in the world, but then to care to come back to a place like Washington Regional and be able to practice. That's really neat. In our cardiology area this year, we began doing a procedure called TAVR, and I'm an accountant, not a medical guy, but basically they can replace the valve in your heart by going through a vein in your leg. And there are patients that would not stand having their chest opened up and their valve replaced that way, and it's a very highly technical procedure that they can do that. Had a patient's son, right, his mom had been very active. She had this TAVR procedure done. She was back home in a week, and she was back to her normal activities within about 4 weeks. And if she had to have an open procedure, the recovery time would have been much greater. So really, really neat stuff. This is yes, ma'am.
It really amazes me every time I go out there, the growth that has occurred in your infrastructure. It's, and I might be jumping the gun here, and I know you have a plan in place for emergency natural disaster or man-made disasters. Don't even go there, but I'm sure that you do have protocol or a plan in place if something should happen. I assume you do have that plan.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
So we have a patient safety officer, Terry Lawson, many of y'all may have known, retired from the fire department, and he is our safety officer, and he works with not only Washington County officials, but other hospitals in the market. They do drills, they do things, so what type of disaster happens, there's a plan in place, and that plan is practiced.
I just have one more comment, because the old Washington Regional Hospital over here and the new complex out there, but every time I go to the hospital, and I've had not immediate family members, but family members in the hospital this year several times, and every time I drive around and see the Statue of Liberty there, it reminds me of John Lewis, who used to, and when he was a Boy Scout, they bought that or raised the money for it and put it over here at the old regional hospital. And then when they moved, they took it, and it's a central attraction there. And I'm just so glad you did that. It's just, it reminds me of how far we've come in the medical field in this county. Thank you.
Thank you. So this patient, Mr. Williams, came to the emergency room with flu symptoms, totally unrelated to the flu. They found that he had a heart valve issue, and due to the exam that was done in the ED, he ended up being put on the cardiology board floor and had a heart valve replaced. And so this is his story. And despite the fact that he would not have wanted to come to the ER with flu, and it's really hard in that flu season with the volume of patients, I think it's extraordinary that our ER physicians took the time not to just look at the obvious, but to look at the underlying, and is a really neat story here. I've mentioned on page 18 our Women's and Infant Center. There were over 2,500 babies born at Washington Regional, including 42 sets of twins. There were 441 babies in our NICU. And when we constructed our Women's and Infant Center, the Ronald McDonald House, we provided space to them. That space they don't pay rent for. That's in our hospital on the top floor. There were 2,002 overnight stays that parents with babies in the NICU were able to stay. And the peace of mind that they tell me of not having to leave the hospital, not having to worry about where to park. There are cameras in the room where they can check on their baby. There's an intercom system that if a nurse needs to ask them a question, that's there. That, again, I think is a great example of partnership where Ronald McDonald House provides this service, but to have that within the hospital. And then the director said that the occupancy rate at Regional was one of the highest occupancy rates of any of the Ronald McDonald's in this part of the country. So just, again, I think a really neat story. We focused on our senior care and partnered with UAMS in North Springdale and opened a clinic there, and have really focused on our hospice and palliative care, an area that people don't like to have to think about, but I personally had two friends this year that ended up spending time in palliative care and hospice, and for those families in those times and decisions that have to be made at end of life, it is such a great service. And oftentimes patients will say, or their families will say, having somebody ask me what my goals of care are versus just more care is absolutely the right thing. So those programs continue to do very well. I mentioned earlier that we provided $21 million of charity care, and just to be sure you understand, that's not what we would charge for care, that's what our cost of that care would be. We have great partnerships with Washington County. We fund a nurse for the Washington County HIV program, and I had the opportunity to tour the crisis stabilization unit with Laura Tyler from Ozark Guidance Center. Man, we're just so optimistic about that center opening and want to thank you for the work that you've done there, and understanding that having a place other than the emergency room or being in jail, to have something in between that, I think will prove to be something very, very valuable. And we're working even in advance of that crisis stabilization unit opening with our ER and how to best get patients that need medical intervention to the ER, and how to get patients once they're medically stabilized that qualify for this unit back there. And we think this is going to be a good partnership moving forward. So thank you for that work. Again, this just kind of highlights the growth that we've had. These are the additional physicians that were recruited to Northwest Arkansas that practice at Washington Regional, from CV surgery, diagnostic radiology, emergency medicine, family medicine, geriatrics, hospital medicine, interventional neuroradiology, movement disorders, neurosurgery, physical medicine, and stroke. If you think about that number of providers that were not in our community in 2017 that are now here practicing, it's probably one of our biggest challenges. Is we all know how the area is growing, and keeping up with being able to recruit nurses, being able to recruit physical therapists and pharmacists and physicians and advanced practice providers. I think there's times I feel almost like a football coach recruiting folks to the market, because we have to spend a good portion of our time doing that. When we can find people that have ties to Northwest Arkansas, ties to the university, those are physicians that come and move here and take care of patients. We've focused a program this year with Medicare called Comprehensive Primary Care Practice Transformation. We're optimistic that that's one of the things that might help us save dollars, is if patients enter the system through their PCP, and if primary care physicians are providing care up front, and you identify diseases earlier in the process, you're proactive in the treatment, as opposed to waiting and treating through the ER whenever there's problems on the backside. So we have invested a lot of time and energy and money this year in our practice transformation activities. At Regional, our people are important. This is three that we've chosen to highlight. Our Chief Nursing Officer, Meredith Green, grew up in Prairie Grove. She was recognized as the outstanding nurse executive in Arkansas last year. Lori Guffey is a speech pathologist, has been with our system and was recognized as our Employee of the Year. And Dana Bell has been an ED nurse for over 25 years and a nurse educator, and she received a Lifetime Achievement Award from the Arkansas Nurses Association this year. So it's really neat to see our people be successful. Again, trying to recruit nurses. When Children's opened, they hired nurses. Mercy is expanding, they're hiring nurses. Just our internal growth, we're hiring nurses. So working with the nursing programs, we are working with the U of A, obviously, as they're here. John Brown University opened, and we received the first graduates from the John Brown University program in nursing this year. NWAC is building a brand new campus in Washington County. We're really excited about partnering with them. They're not only training nurses, but EMTs and other medical informatics. So we're really trying to partner with our local education. And this is a neat story about our nurse residency program, and trying to make that transition from being a student and being a student nurse to being the one at the bedside taking care of patients. And before we put our nurse residency program in place, there was a lot of nurses at that 1 or 2 year mark that changed, that left the hospital. They weren't fulfilled, and so we have reduced by 2/3 the turnover of our first and second year nurses with the nurse residency program that we put in place. So that is really having great benefits. And then finally, we could not be successful without the volunteers that we have. People that volunteer their time and energy. Our board, each year, one of the jobs that the Quorum Court has is to approve our board. We have 10 members of our board. They live in Washington County. To me, as a leader, that's so important. For the people in the boardroom making decisions are vested. They're people who live in Washington County, people that when they or their family members have to need a health system are here. And that board is an all-volunteer board. We don't pay any board fees, so they're truly doing it for the love of Northwest Arkansas. So again, appreciate the opportunity to come and chair, and would be happy to address questions here or just any questions at large.
If you don't mind, I'd like to ask a couple of questions. I'm going to ask anybody else if they'd like to ask something. I'd read the paper about the quality evaluation and was very impressed with that. And, visiting the hospital, it's not very hard to see the quality of service there. And I really appreciate that. We've had a number of family and friends down there, and it's impressive. I guess one of the big issues I got right now is parking. I really appreciate the shuttles down there, but what the heck are you going to do about some more places to park?
I think one thing about the University of Arkansas and Washington Regional, we will never have enough parking. We have been working with the city of Fayetteville. One of the things we did this year was opened our business office at Drake Street at the corner of Gregg and Drake. That took 200 cars from our main campus to that site. It took patients that were only coming to talk about their bill or have questions about their bill. That's taken them off-site. Every time we add on to the hospital, we go to the city planning department, partner with them to see how much additional parking we can add. You all may not be aware, but we have maximum parking ratios based upon the size of the building. And so we are at those maximum parking ratios. We are looking at a shuttle, not only a shuttle service, but allowing a concierge parking or a valet parking. There would be no fee for that. If someone chose to do that and wanted to give a tip to the person that could, that would be their choice, but there would be no charge to patients. And for those that are coming to visit or coming to see family in the hospital, hopefully that will be workable. But unfortunately, I think it's going to be a battle that we'll continue to fight.
Mm-hmm. You haven't considered any vertical parking?
We do, and the cost is about 5 or 6 times what the cost of other parking, but it still doesn't help us unless the square footage of the facility, we can't add any more number of spaces. Okay. So it might help it be a little bit closer, but it wouldn't help with our overall number of.
Well, what about the loss of Obamacare? How much negative impact has that had? Is that part of that $21 million in charity care you're talking about?
So yes, there's a big portion of the charity care are folks that come to our ER. That's a place of entry. Our emergency department's open 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. And so for a lot of people that don't have a PCP or don't have access to primary care, that ER is where they come. We take care of everybody regardless of their ability to pay. Having access to the Arkansas Exchange has been a great thing. It has allowed us to be able to grow and add, but we think it's very important, and that is a big chunk. I would say probably 2/3 of that charity care are people that are accessing that do not have access to coverage.
Okay.
Or they may have a deductible that they have no way of meeting.
Mm-hmm. One other thing about, I had my wife down there once in the emergency room, and the waiting time was rather extended because it didn't look like it's a heart attack type of situation. And I wonder what are you going to be able to do to try to minimize that wait time in emergency rooms?
So we talked about putting a sign up in the emergency room that says "Worst come, first served," because that really is. But we have done a couple of things. One is we have most shifts now either an APN or a PA that is doing triage, that is working out when patients check in on the front end and helping to do that medical screening exam. If a patient is non-urgent, then they're advised of that. And if there's an urgent care or another venue that they can go to, we're encouraging them, even have what we call a fast pass system, that if they've checked in the ER and after their screening exam it's not emergent, that gets them to the front of the line in urgent care instead of having to go back to the back line. But unfortunately, those that are less acute end up being pushed back as emergent and urgent things come in. But we have seen that total length of stay improve, having those advanced practice providers practicing in our
Well, I know if you call 911 and the ambulance comes after you, get down there and get help right away. But in the event that doesn't seem to be that critical, it does really extend the times. And so I know that's always a pressing issue with everybody. Okay, I don't have any other questions. Anybody else have questions, comments? Yes, sir.
I just wanted to tell you, Mr. Shackelford, I appreciate the presentations you brought to us this evening, and admire you as a good spokesperson for Washington Regional.
Thank
you. It was
sir.
very good. Thank you.
I appreciate it.
But you know, I don't want to just thank you for the presentation. I want you to thank you for the quality and the service you guys are providing to Washington County. You know, my wife had to go to Springfield for an evaluation, and went up there and got a referral back to Dr. Trimwell. And so we were very excited about that, and feel like we're getting first-class care right there.
Thank you.
So thank you so very much, and appreciate it.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, Ann, go ahead.
One more comment of the quality of care that's been given at Washington Regional. I had a cousin had some heart problems, so she decided, well, she almost died, but anyway, she has relatives also that work at Mayo's, and so they went up there and they checked her out, and they said the doctors at Washington Regional did everything like it was supposed to be done. So, you know, that really makes me feel good about this hospital.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Y'all have a good evening.
I want to go ahead and talk about the Rural 1 paved roads grants. Mr. Gales, do you have the signs there about the grants?
Did you?
Now turn the mic back on. We want to be able to hear you.
To talk about the unpaved roads program, I want to give the members that haven't been with us the last 4 years a little history. In 2016, I was sitting at a Kiwanis meeting on Thursday, and I said, "Harvey, where have you been?" And Harvey said, "Well, I've been to Little Rock." they got a grant program down there that will give us money to help improve unpaved roads, that's dirt roads. So he said, I came back, and after about a month, I said, well, how's that going? He said, well, the administration decided that they didn't have time to fill it out. Well, things changed. Now I became part of the organization. Judge Woods came on, and this grant program is available, and it started in 2016. In 2017, we did our application at the first of the year, and they have about $100,000 in the grant fund. We got 70,000 of it, our first time. We call it, and this was done on Sugar Mountain Road, which is a very difficult road, very steep. And the reason we got this, two, one, it emptied right in across Highway 71 into the West Fork, which is one of our protected streams. You could see the mud flowing over when we took the Clay out to it, which Clay was our state guy, and this is a pilot program. The governor started this pilot program with $100,000. So we got we got the big money. Sharon went down, and so we presented a check in 2017 for this. All right, so we got this project done, and the thing on this projects are that you do them in the fiscal year, you get them. So we got done with this one, accepted. We submitted an application in 2018 for Blue Hole Road, which when we came back and met, they said, well, we want to give something over in the Illinois River Basin. And we looked at a lot of roads with the state representatives there that works the program. We got, for this road, we got $75,000 last year. We completed that program last week. We had a meeting, and of course, I invited Harvey because he's been so involved in this, and we call it the Harvey Bowman Endowment Fund. But we submitted our application this year, and this is for Stoner Road. It's out west. This road is down in the creek.
Ballard Creek.
Huh?
Ballard Creek.
Ballard Creek Road. Ballard Creek Road. I knew Willie would know that. So, J.P. Lindeman. So we submitted our application, and it gives me great pleasure to hand to and give officially this amount, $67,500 to do this road. And this is a mile, and the road is right down in the creek, and we'll bring it up. Now then, that's just part of the history of what this little program is doing for our county. But we got excellent news when we met the other day to get this one kicked off. The governor, in his reorganization, has now decided to assign this pilot program, which we were the people. We got it off and running. He now has raised it to $250,000 for the next year's funding, and their goal is to raise it to $1 million, which will make a significant impact on our roads. And we'll be after getting 75% of that, which with our math is, we'll go after $500,000 or $750,000 million. We already have our roads picked out and going for it. So my hats are off to the fact that it's actually, the chairman there started the program, and we're following it up.
Well, that's not what this is all about, but I'm very happy about it. I guess y'all know that I've probably been out here on these old county roads, and I thought that when we talked about Sugar Mountains, we'd seen the worst of them. But Mr. Gales has taken me out to some of these places, and I've seen other things, and I can tell you, that's just the beginning. That's just the opening door, and we've got a lot of very difficult roads out there. Mr. Gales, thank you. I want to finish up here. Let me share something with them right quick about our meeting before you leave.
Right.
You may have more to say. When we went out to look at this place by the Blue Hole, they call it, there's a drive through a creek down there. It's probably close to 2 feet deep, just under normal water circumstances that people are driving through daily. And they require a very large bridge to go in there to accommodate that. But we met with Mr. Tony Ramick, and I was introduced to him by another person involved in this Nature Conservancy. And they said he is probably the best informed guy in the whole state relative to this road program and conservation issues. He is the EPA 319 coordinator for the Arkansas Natural Resources Commission. And then Clayton Knighton is the Nature Conservancy guy that we started out working with to begin with. He's the one that came up and looked at the roads. He was there. Dr. Stacy Williams is the director out here at the Center for Training Transportation Professionals at the University of Arkansas. And I even had her out there on Sugar Mountain Road with us one day. And Mr. Charles Ward, our superintendent of county roads, was there. So we all met out there and talked about these grants and so forth and what we're trying to do. Anyhow, I've been talking to our grants administrator, Sharon, and she said over the past couple of years, we've applied for over $400,000 or $400,000 in grants that even we couldn't get done that year, so we couldn't accept one of them. And then another one we got beat out by somebody else on that other 250 grant. But Mr. Ramick said that the federal government is getting involved and looking at putting some more money in this thing. So there's a high probability the resources available is going to be going up. And since we were one of the primaries in this thing, I think that we're going to be beneficiaries of a lot more. Yes, sir.
As an afternote to that, on the one that Mr. Bowman advocated that we did not complete in time, we went for the extension on it because we did not have our plans completed. This consisted of a bridge, and bridges normally run a couple of years. So Judge Woods went to Little Rock, met with them, and they said a verbal promise that we will get that $250,000 in the grant funds if we can be prepared. So we've started our bridge design on that immediately after that, and to get this bridge built and get that $250,000.
Fantastic.
I like to get that money.
Yep. Okay. You know, one other thing that hadn't been mentioned here, I was in Kiwanis, and Carl and I were both in Kiwanis with some people out from Beaver Water District, and began to talk to them about the possibilities of them helping out because they're really concerned about water quality. And they're only concerned about that going into Beaver Lake. But we've been talking to them. I've been told that they've got $3 million set aside to help with water quality going into Beaver Lake. And so we're trying to go ahead and continue to work with them. I think they were the source of that $250,000 we applied for, that somebody else beat us out on that. But we're going to continue to follow up with them. And I talked to one of their people from the Alliance today. And so he's going to follow up with them and see if we can go ahead and come up with some additional help on that thing. So that's all I've got, unless y'all got other questions about the county road. Yes, sir?
We need to look at Nashorner Road. The creek is the road.
We need to what?
Nashorner Road down in the far west Oklahoma line right up there. Nashorner is, the creek is the road.
Right. And those are what we're looking for.
And that goes into Ballard Creek, which is a protected creek, so shouldn't be hard to get funded for that.
We put them in, and we get one a year on these programs, and I hope it continues for many years to come.
That'd be good.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Now, the truth of the matter is, Chairman Bowman, is that you recommended your very good friend, Mr. Gales, to help the county out when we were in the middle of 4 lawsuits and 2 bridges were a disaster.
I promised that you wouldn't do this now.
And
this is about the roads.
He didn't do, well, the thing is,
I didn't have anything to do with it.
the thing is, you recognized excellence and education and experience and lassoed in Mr. Gales, and that's when we first met him. And he volunteered to look at our bridges and our culverts and give recommendations of the systemic problem that Washington County had and was facing. It was challenging for those that are new on the court. It was
brutal.
It was brutal. It really was brutal. But you did it, and you volunteered, and then we had a changeover in administration. And wisely, Judge Woods said, I'm going to last you into Chief of Staff, and you've done an outstanding job. And I want to just give credit to whom credit is due. The Sharon we're just talking about is Director Sharon Lloyd, who Judge Woods hired as our new grants administrator, and she has done an excellent job and has increased our grants funds and is going out there and looking everywhere to help Washington County, and that way we don't have to raise taxes.
Yep.
And that's the important thing. So
Thank you.
that's
All right.
where it all starts.
Well, let me tell you,
I'm proud of you. Thank you.
I met Mr. Gales at Kiwanis, and we became good friends. But you know what? The ultimate praise goes to our judge. He was smart enough not to hire him for county roads, but for the chief of staff. And he's the one that brought Sharon in here and did a fantastic job. He's the one that brought our our veteran services in. And I'm telling you something, I've been on here 6+ years now, and I've never seen the county function as well as it is right now.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Carl. I appreciate it. Okay, we're supposed to do yours next, Dan, or which?
Well,
Public comment.
Public comment.
All right, public comment first. Anybody have public comments? Come on, Beth. I know good and well you got to tell us something.
Regarding, my public comment doesn't have to do with county services.
I'm sorry?
I want to talk to you.
Okay, okay, all right.
Thank you, Beth.
No public comments then. All right, Ms. Ann?
Okay, this is under other business. There was a meeting the other day, and some of us were there, and with the circuit judges and the prosecuting attorney and public defender. Now, I'm starting to talk with some of these people, and I need to know if y'all can support me. Because what I would like to do is not really original, because Herbie kind of brought this up also, and that we need an outside consultant that has no dog in the game to come in and evaluate our system of circuit judges, prosecuting attorney, and I don't want anyone to think we are pointing out any individual. But if we could get an idea of, if we could bring a professional in and let them look at how to improve the efficiency and maybe cut down on our 400 pretrial people that we have. I've talked to a couple of people, and it will take a year at least to do the evaluation, all right? And it will cost somewhere around $150,000. Now, if I'm gonna go out here and talk and try to, here comes Beth. And also, let me make a comment that one of our judges made, in that they think that outside volunteers can be included, they need to be included in some of the, decision-making, but their ideas. Anyway, do I go forward with this? Because if I get to the court and I say I need $150,000 and we bring a couple of professional people in to do this job and no one really knows what's going on, then you're not going to approve it.
Okay.
So, I mean, this is just my question. we don't need to vote on it or anything like this, but I need to kind of get a feel of, yes, it's a lot of money. And I haven't talked to the judge about this. I was going to do that before I did this, but he's here tonight. Anyway, I can't call you up on the phone and ask you how you feel about this. So I'm putting it out in a public meeting. How do you feel about this?
Thank you, Ann. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We don't have party lines anymore, otherwise our reporter, Mr. Sism, could just find out what we're saying. I wonder if, do all of the judges fall under you, Judge? Circuit judges?
No,
Who are they under? Arkansas Office of Courts. I'm wondering if in their line item budgets they have professional services.
Well, this is Washington County. Some of
Yes.
it goes over into Madison County because some of our judges have jurisdiction.
Well, within their budgets, do they have a professional line item, professional services line item?
All right, but we're not just talking about judges. We're talking about public defender, and we're talking
All
about
of 'em.
prosecuting attorney.
All of 'em.
You know, they could make recommendations that maybe we could use some kind of new technology to help these people out, or we could.
But I'm saying to
They need
fund it.
additional people to
But
help them.
What I'm saying to fund it is to pull so much money from all of their professional line items.
Hey, could I make a
Could we,
comment about this?
just a way of suggestion?
This is in the very infancy, so, you know.
Just,
Let me make a comment about
and then
that.
there's always grants, maybe. I don't know.
Number one,
We
would y'all
can
turn
ask
your
Mrs.
mics off
Lloyd.
for right quick? Thank you. First off, next week, we have a jail meeting. And so I think this will probably be better broached at the jail meeting. But Ms. Koger is back there, and I think she has probably put in as much time as any county official we've got in studying this issue. And she and I talked today. And she has been looking at some possibilities of people to come in and do this type of work. And I'm sure she's here because she wanted to hear what's going on and be sure if she had a chance to make a comment. But she's been looking at different organizations that could possibly come in and do this. And I told her my preference would be that it not exceed 90 days. Because I feel like this jail situation is critical at this point, and we're going to have to make a decision sooner or later about putting it on the ballot. And we've got to get that done before this year is over. Yes, ma'am.
I don't want this to conflict with that, because there's no way that you can do an in-depth evaluation of all of these parts in 90 days.
Okay.
It's going to take a year. And
Ms.
it's
Koger,
going,
I'm sorry. Could you come share with us what you've learned? Yeah, just a minute. Yeah.
Elizabeth Koger, Fayetteville. Harvey did call me today, and I have been talking with two different agencies. The first one is the JFA Institute out of Denver, and the other one is JMI, Judicial Management Institute. And I have a conference call with them tomorrow morning at 9, and I'll be getting more information from them. But I don't know. I have this one, and the reason I was coming tonight after I talked to Harvey, I was going to ask if the county could make copies for me and distribute this to all the quorum court, because I'm running up quite a bill at the FedEx place.
Perhaps
and
we can get it scanned and emailed to all of our instead. Perhaps Patty could do that instead. Scan it to
Okay. I will do
PDF
that.
document.
But this it's very interesting, and it sets out different steps that they'll go through and the time frame. And Ann is right. There's no way it could be in 90 days, Harvey. It'll take them that long just to be collecting the basic data. But I wanted to bring this tonight and let y'all just study it like I've studied it. I've highlighted some of the time frames that they've got marked. And they've got different, here's the price, and I've also got a summary of the prices. But it's going to be very important, because I've talked to so many people that we do a thorough job, and that's going to include the judiciary, the courts, the prosecutor, everything, not just the jail.
Okay.
And because they all flow together.
They all play a part, yes.
Into the jail.
Well-
So I appreciate very much being able to give this to you.
Thank you.
And
Thank you for providing it.
And thank you. And then tomorrow, I hope to know more after I talk to the other jail consultants.
Thank you very much. Mr. Pond?
I see the value of the study, but I'm in agreement with Ms. Harbison and you, I expect. I don't want to see this, we need an intensive study on this issue, not because we're getting ready to have to expand the jail, which we're going to have to do, but because we need to figure out if there's any way to keep that from happening again 15 years from now.
Okay.
And it's a long process.
Okay. Ms. Coker, do you have anything else to say?
Well, I was just going to say that it is a long process, this study, but building the jail is a long process too. And this could be completed, hopefully, like they say, within a year. And we do need an outside study, independent study, and that's what these people do.
Okay, go ahead.
Oh.
Thank you, Justice Bowman. Even though it won't be done in 90 days, I've been here 6 months and we've kicked the can down the road 6 months already. And so I do think it's very important to take a look at all of the different ways that we can try to keep a lot of our pretrial people from being incarcerated during that time, or to shorten the time that people are held. So I think that this is a really good idea.
One other thing I would say is that John Comstock, the retired circuit judge that had spoken before, he says there's things we can start doing right now that will help while we're doing this study. And he's happy to coordinate that if the time comes.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, ma'am. You know,
I'm sorry.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, go ahead.
Perhaps he can present an outline or a just of what he plans on doing, so that way at least we're
aware
and not
thing,
just, here it is.
Right. Okay.
So,
I know one thing would be the ombudsman that he's talked about, but I will ask him to do that. I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you,
And may I
ma'am.
give this to you, Harvey?
Yes,
And-
please. No, just give it to Patty, please.
Well, I'll scan it and I'll get your email, but I want
Okay, all right. All right. Thank you. I appreciate it. Oh, my. More homework. I think the crisis stabilization unit is going to be one contributing factor. The drug lab is going to be another factor that's going to play into this thing. So I think both of those are going to help with the situation. But the thing I think that, has everybody heard the podcast that was done by the Arkansas Democrat Gazette and the sheriff? Greg Harton interviewed the sheriff for about an hour, and that's online. And I listened to it again today, and it is fantastic information, and the sheriff does a really great job of describing what's going on. And the situation, I think many people have been convinced that the sheriff is not doing a good job of trying to minimize occupancy out there. But Ms. Coker has already done a tremendous amount of interviews over there and talked to them about the situation. And he did a great job of explaining the process and what he's doing at the jail with Mr. Harton in that exchange. So I've got that link at home on my computer. I'll be glad to send that to Patty and have her send it to everybody. So you can go ahead and listen to that interview, because it is a fabulous interview. Okay. Hey, I had one other comment before we adjourn. I want to make, I don't know about you, the rest of you, but that doggone meeting we had about the Johnson Controls was really a traumatic event for me. I had a lot of questions about it, and I found out that Benton County looked at this process in 2013, and the judge tells me that was before the state had approved this process. But they looked at the situation and said, there's nothing you're proposing we can't do ourselves. And that's basically where my head was. The biggest return was on the installation of solar cells and replacement of light fixtures. And those were the ones that gave us the biggest return on our investment. And we could secure a loan on our own like that to get that done for the savings. I figure that the Johnson Controls people, with their involvement, my guess is they'll make in excess of $1 million over the 20 years. That's going to come out of our pocket. I talked to a loan officer in Springdale with Arvest about this, if they'd be interested in a 3.1 loan for 20 years, and he said, no way unless there's huge tax benefits. So, you know, at this point, I rolled over and voted for this program because I saw I was outnumbered very dramatically, and I knew that members were not here that would be supportive of the situation. So that's why I was a traitor and ran. But I hope this program is very, very successful. I've been told that Washington County has approached us, Benton County has approached now, and they're very seriously considering this very same proposal. So all I can say is 20 years now, I probably won't know the results, but I'm...
You just may.
We never know, never know. But I just want to make a comment about that because I didn't sleep that night. I had a very difficult time with it. But anyway, thank you all for being here. I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move we adjourn.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Judge, you want to say something? No. Okay, all right. Thank you.